greatest gladiator match in the history of the world. God versus man. Day versus night.
A couple of the things I really liked about this interpretation of Lex Luthor is that it has kind of like a theological component. I mean, that language is used a lot throughout, the trailers, but throughout the movie as well. Can you talk a little bit about Lex's worldview in that regard, and then also sort of how his father and the sort of the family history kind of informs his point of view, because that was also an interesting, very compelling element, I thought.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was really surprised by it as well. I mean, because it seemed to me like a character that you'd find in like Greek theater, somebody who's talking about the big issues. And when I say big issues, I don't mean of the day. I mean of morality, of life, of living in a civil society. And he brings kind of a theological element to it, because I think he looks at Superman as a god who's been given powers that he should not have, and he looks at Batman and he looks at himself as kind of man-made gods, and he thinks, well, these are the gods that should exist. We've made ourselves. And he looks at Superman as like a false idol. And I think spends the most of the movie trying to prove to society that Superman is not worthy of that status. And it's talking about good and evil. It's talking about power. It's talking about hegemony. It's talking about all these interesting things that a superhero movie, I think, is a wonderful platform for, because superhero movies are larger than life. They're about people that don't exist that you can use emblematically to discuss these big issues.
Yeah. I mean, it is mythology. Yeah, I mean, you reference Greek mythology, but it's basically the same thing.
Yeah, it's like a kind of modern mythology, with a little more blood.
Now, what about the way Lex's kind of family history kind of informs his worldview? Because I thought that actually makes a lot of sense, you know?
Yeah, my character feels like, he's had an abusive father. Whether or not that's true, whether or not he's using it to justify his behavior, to manipulate others, it's probably a gray area. But I think he looks at Superman in an almost like perverse Freudian way, that Superman has all this power. How can he be good? In the same way my father has had all this power but was not good. And I think if Superman is that powerful, then by definition will be destructive, because somebody like that powerful, like Mother Nature, can destroy so much.
Right. Now, can you say when we might get to see Lex Luthor again?
Yeah, I hope to be in these other movies. I mean, my hope is that they make many movies, because I think they're making them the right way. They're like doing them, the best artisans on the planet are working on them, the best writers, the best directors. So it seems to me like I would love to be a part of that world, especially in this role, because the character is so odd and eccentric, and on the one hand, I could see him becoming like a good guy, because he is a thinker and he can maybe reason out what would work best. I don't think he's just villainous for its own sake, but I could also see him obviously spiraling into even far more Machiavellian destruction.
I would just wonder what he would think of somebody like, Joker and Suicide Squad,
Right.
I thought I was bad.
Right, exactly. Yeah, not looking so bad. Yeah.
Anarchy there.
Yes, exactly.